All right, so I have to head out to the airport in about an hour. I'm flying out to visit the Adobe headquarters in San Jose for the first time ever. I'm very excited, but I wanted to get a video out for this week, just so that we have something to enjoy and to get creative. Now, here's the thing. Ever since I moved to Florida about 3 years ago, the nature of my photography has changed significantly. There aren't as many mountains and waterfalls in this state, but what there are tons of are birds. And this is actually something that I initially resisted, if I'm being honest, just because I'm like, I'm not a bird photographer. But the more I thought about it, the more excited I got because it allowed me to explore a type of photography that I had like zero experience in. And so the idea of learning a new type of photography was really exciting. And so in this video, what I want to do is I'm going to show you some of the most kind of important tools that I find in Lightroom. We're just going to stick with Lightroom Desktop. And if you're a Lightroom Classic user, pretty much everything can be replicated there. But I'm going to take this photo of a great blue heron, and I'm going to show you how I edit it to this photo. And so we're going to have some fun. It's a pretty straightforward editing workflow video. It's something I haven't done in a bit. And so let's dive in. All right, so this is the photo that I took. This is the original shot. If I go into the info view, you could see Sony A1 Mark II with the 100 to 400 and the 1.4x teleconverter. Now, one of the things that I like about these raw files, they're 50 megapixel files. They're not giant in file size. 60 megabytes, not a big deal. I'm okay with that. Now, you can see this is a great blue heron. If we zoom in here, it's nice and sharp. It was noisy because you can see I was at ISO 5000 in order to get really fast shutter speeds. Also, it wasn't exactly sunny, which is uncharacteristic for this time of year in Florida. But still, I love this photo. I just love the articulation of the wings. Something about the way these great blue herons fly, there's this interesting aerodynamic shape going on here. But we're not going to talk about, the aerodynamics of this bird. We're going to talk about how to edit it. So let's go to the editing panel here. And again, I mentioned the noise because that's pretty much the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to select enhance because we're going to use the AI denoise in Lightroom. And as I talk about a tool, more likely than not, I've already covered a video that dives into it a little bit deeper. So as I talk about it, I'm going to leave a card at the top. So if you want to learn more about it, you can. So again, AI denoise, this is how I use it. I zoom out and then I click on kind of like the primary area. And so this right here, and then I bring it to the left here to see what a lower noise reduction will do. And then I increase it. And I don't like to go too far because yes, the noise is gone. You can see if we click, all that noise is gone, but we also do lose some of that detail. So I'm going to back this off. I'm okay with a little bit of noise. Like that's the thing. Sometimes I think, I mean, not other people, but myself included, feel like all the noise needs to be eradicated. And that's not necessarily true. Like it's okay to have a little bit of noise. It's okay to have a little bit of a blown out highlight or a clipped shadow. Like it's okay. You don't need to have everything perfectly addressed. But I think you'll agree that from here to here, this is a notable improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and click on enhance. What this will do is it will create a new DNG file. So if I drop out of grid, you'll see a DNG file appear over here. All right, so there you go. There is the DNG file. And if we, actually what I'll do is I'll compare the two. So let's select these two images and let's go into compare view. And then let's select multiple images and zoom in. And so you could see here what an improvement there is between the two images. All right, cool. So this is going to be our new working image here. I'm going to drop the film strip because I want to have the extra real estate. And now, the first thing that I do basically before anything is if I'm working with a supported RAW or DNG file is I change the profile to the new adaptive color. And you can see what a great job it does in just fixing the image. Like you can be done with this photo if you wanted, like in terms of like the editing to it, because just tone and color look spot on. Of course, I can dial in the strength of this profile. So something right around there looks good. Looking at the histogram, everything looks great there. Now, normally I would enable HDR. I would edit in a 32-bit HDR file, but because my screen recording software doesn't support me showing it to you, it won't look good. But note that normally this is the other thing that I would turn on right here, this HDR mode. It is so good But we're going to work in just SDR, no problem. We can still get a great looking photo. So the next thing that I'll do is I'll take my white balance dropper. I'm going to try something here like this gray. And for the most part, you could see it was totally neutral, so nothing really changed, which is good. Now let's go ahead and crop, because what I want to do is just get the image at a good baseline just to see what I'm working with. Now that I have that, I'm going to go to crop over here. I'm going to maintain the original aspect ratio by ensuring that this lock is enabled. And I'm going to start kind of cropping in. I want to, focus on the bird. And actually, now that I think about it, let me undo this. First thing I want to do is rotate. So I want to make sure that we're at a kind of an even horizon, because it was looking kind of crooked, probably the way I was holding the camera and tracking the bird. So that looks better. Now I'll go ahead and crop in. So something like this. Now I'll press E to see the crop, go back into crop. This is how I crop. When I'm doing these tight crops, I'm often just jumping back and forth. So this is looking pretty balanced. Let me go in from there. Good. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm photographing birds, especially when they're moving, not even birds, just even objects in general, probably it's because the way that I read, especially with, English and kind of Roman characters, is that I read from left to right. And so when I look at this photo, this bird's flying from right to left. It's fine, totally fine. But I'm going to go to crop here, and I'm going to select this flip horizontal. And then I'll go back here. And to me, this just looks better. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to crop here, and I'm going to bring the crop box down a bit. Something like that. Okay, that looks good. All right, now, when you apply the adaptive color profile, we recommend not using auto. In fact, when you click on it, you'll see this dialog here that says you probably don't want to do this. So I'm going to take our suggestions here. And I really don't need auto. I might just open exposure up just a tiny bit and drop highlights a bit. Now, despite doing that, I'm still going to apply an S curve using the point curve here to apply a bit of contrast. So I'm going to bring this point up here to increase the highlights. I'm going to drop a point here and drop it down for the shadows. And then for the midtones, I'm just going to open it up a little bit here. Then one of my favorite things to do with my S curves is to take the black point and introduce a bit of gray. So you can see as I bring this up, how we're adding gray and then white in the darkest parts of the image. We don't want that. We just want a little bit of gray. And what I think this does is it adds contrast, but it also softens that contrast a bit. Then I'm going to take this refine saturation slider, and I'm going to bring this to about the halfway point, because when you apply a point curve here, or when you make edits to the point curve, it also makes color changes. It adds a bit of saturation. And so you can either remove all of that, in which case you can see it gets a little bit flatter in terms of color. But I find that like about the halfway point is really nice. All right, let's go ahead here. I'm going to add a little bit of global vibrance to the image. And then in terms of global editing, I'd say this is we're mostly done. Like if I hit the backslash key, you could see what we started with. And then here's what we have with all the edits that we made. But now I want to make some edits specifically to the bird. The easiest way for me to do that is to go to the masking panel here, and I'm going to select the adaptive subject mask. You could see just what a brilliant job it does of selecting the bird. And so I want to add a little bit more detail. Now I find for detail, a lot of people I think go to clarity, but I find texture to be beautiful here. So I'm going to increase texture. And like, if we zoom in here, let me go ahead and zoom in a bit more. Something like that. You can see here, watch, you see how we get this beautiful texture in the wing. So I usually like to see the entire image when I'm applying texture. So something right, and I'm looking like back here, especially. So right around there looks really nice. Go ahead. And I'm also going to open the shadows up a bit. Something right around there. And did you see the way that I work is with the sliders, I move it back and forth and I'm looking at the image. I'm not focusing on the slider. I'm focusing on the slider's impact on the image. So something like there looks good. All right. Now what I want to do is I want the bird to really kind of pop off the background. And so what I'll do is I'm going to create a new mask and I'm going to select background. Now background, if you look at the icon, look at subject. So you could see it's an icon of a subject, and background is basically the opposite of the subject. And that's what this is. Background is the select subject mask and then inverted. So if I select this, you can see that everything but the bird, oh, you got a little bit of the head here, is selected. So I'm not too worried about it. But if you do want to remove it, an easy way to do it is I could just go to subtract. I'll select objects, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle around this here. And now you could see, boom, we're good here. And I'm not looking to make a major precise selection, but this is good because what I can do now is I can drop that exposure just a bit, and you can see how the bird really pops. And in fact, what I'm going to do for the background is I'm also going to warm it up a bit, and I'm also going to desaturate it just a bit. All right, let's look at our mask here. This is without the mask. This is with the mask again, subtle but effective. And then to wrap things up, we'll just apply just some final touches here. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to the color calibration sliders here, and I'm going to increase the saturation of the blue primary, which is going to change the value of the blue pixels in the entire image here. And I have a video that dives into this entire panel. It's one of the most powerful panels in Lightroom. It's both in Lightroom Desktop and in Lightroom Classic, so do not skimp out. I'm also going to increase the saturation of the green primary here. Now let's go ahead and add a global dehaze to the image just a bit. I'm not going to apply a vignette to this image because I feel like I don't want to darken it that much. The primary part of the subject is over here. And so what I could do is I could apply a radial gradient to draw the eye to the head, but I want the whole image to be in focus in terms of not darkening the edges of the frame. So I'm good with this. And finally, let's go ahead. Let's zoom in here and let's apply sharpening. So I like to zoom in. Usually I zoom in at 100%, and then I'm going to press and hold on the Option or Alt key while dragging on the amount slider here. And I'm going to add sharpening until it looks sharp, but not overly sharp, not like that. So right around there. And then I'll zoom out and same thing, press and hold on the Option or Alt key, and I'm going to remove it from pretty much everywhere except for the high contrast edges. So right around there. And so this is looking really good. Like again, let's press the backslash key and you can see this is our original photo. Granted, this includes the crop. It's not like it's showing you the uncropped original. This is just the cropped version without any edits applied. And then when I enable it, I mean, to me, this looks fantastic. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed putting it together because most of my editing workflow videos that I've got on my channel are landscape related. And because I've only been practicing bird photography for about 6 months. And so it's fun to try workflow tricks on a completely different genre. And maybe it exposed you as you watch this to try something different with your bird photography or just any photography that you're interested in. Now, of course, if you want to learn everything there is to know about Lightroom desktop, mobile, and web, please do check out my course called Lightroom Everywhere. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Now, in the middle of the editing workflow video, I talked about the color calibration panel. It is something you really need to know how to use. I've got this video here, so be sure to check that out. And of course, if you found this video helpful, a thumbs up is always appreciated. And be sure to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of all future videos. Thanks a lot, everyone.